Well, hello, friendy friends. How's it going? Hello, hello. Katie Church, Katie Church, Katie Church. I'm so excited about Katie Church. I've had some conflicting feelings. Good to see you all. Welcome here. About having the word church in the title of what this is, but I overall like that I have conflicting feelings about it. I'm enjoying what it brings up for people, and I'm enjoying what it nurtures in people. And I think it'll be a fun continued thematic thing for us to discuss and explore and play with over time. Of course, sometimes church, right, can feel very like limiting and religious-y and constricting to those of us who are super liberal and spiritual but not into dogma. But then it can feel very comforting and nurturing to those of us who had not horrible experiences with religion in childhood, which is not that many people that I know, but they're out there. And I just think, why not reinvent this whole thing? I could have given it a whole other name, but then I like kind of going, tipping the hat to what was and saying, here's a brand new, very not typically churchy church. Here we are. Okay, friends. So in the description of today's deal, what we're doing here, I'm actually pulling it up to have it in front of me so I can keep on track, because there's two kind of key points I want to get to, and then I want to run a clearing for this group. It's so nice to see you all. Thank you guys for being here. It's really touching just that anyone would show up. I'm just delighted and touched. It's one thing when people like pay to come to a class or they pay to take a session, have a healing session, but just hanging out with you guys on Wednesday nights, it feels really special and sweet. So thank you for being here. So I want to talk about resistance some more. We talked about it a bit last time, I believe, although I have zero mind left. The more of this energy work you do, holy crikey, my mind is like just like a wind tunnel of delight. It's just like a tunnel through which air flows. Which is both liberating and fun, but also can be a little, difficult in the 3D world where the majority of this world lives from their mind, if you haven't noticed, which I'm sure you have. And so sometimes people are like, are you just like space? Where's the person? And I'm like, the person's in here. But that's a topic for another night. So I want to talk about resistance and how to clear it and what makes resistance so elusive and so difficult to work around. Now, if you're here tonight, so we'll talk about that. And then another piece I want to talk about that is intimately linked with that is the relationship between doing our emotional healing work and activating the spirit body or the light body or your psychic abilities or your channel or your mediumship or whatever, or even just having a spiritual connection at all, and what the connection is between doing our emotional human 3D dense energy. Nobody wants to do it because it's uncomfortable, pain body related work. How that is so intimately connected with activating the light body and doing all the work that is so much more multidimensional. So let's start on that end and we'll wrap back around to resistance. Okay, so over the years, I have had many experiences in my own healing journey, which has been just a constant state of healing in my life. It started off, I tried all the typical things that people try, like one should. I tried therapy and just any kind of normal processing system that one could try. So happy to see you. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Ray. Carolina. Deirdre. Good to see you guys. So, yay. Oh, Frida's here. How fun is that? Jane, everybody. It's good to see you guys. Good, good, good. I forget to look at the specific humans. It's good to see you. Hi, specific humans. Hi. So, having tried a ton of, three-dimensional healing stuff at the beginning of my trauma healing process, I've shared with many of you, like I ran into a lot of what? Rami Margaret in the house. I can't stand it. It's too good. It's too much goodness. Just tone it down. No, bring it up. Bring it up in your living room. Dancing in your living room with joy because Rami's here. All right. So I tried all the normal things. And for me, therapy at the beginning of my healing journey was too difficult, way too painful, way too difficult. And also, it just didn't work. And I've come to understand that in my particular case, and this is just particular to me, okay, I'm just coming around to a point and using myself as an example because it's a decent example. In my particular case, the kind of trauma I had was so dense and so heavy and so icky and terrible that talking about it and feeling into it, it was sort of like if you took like a tiny Rami's here, so I'm thinking birds. If you took like the beak of a little sparrow and you went like tick, 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 tick up against a Mount Fuji sized mountain of ice, but the ice was actually cement, and the cement was made of darkness and hate. And you were like tick, 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 like a little bird ticking on the on a mountain the size of Mount Fuji. That's gonna take a long ass time. And you as the mountain, or I should say the earth, I was the earth in this metaphor, the mountain was my trauma. The mountain's gonna be there causing the earth a whole lot of fucking pain for a whole goddamn long time if you're just tick, tick, ticking with a sparrow beak. Okay, that was therapy for me. And that's not because therapy is a problem or therapy is limited or therapy is bad. It's because it was just not the right tool for the job of me, for the job of my healing. When I tried a million things to melt this triangle of cement that ran through the center of me, I really tried for a lot of years. When I ran into and found and was brought to, and all kinds of synchronistic events led me to divine light energy healing and went to my first healing school, the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism at the time. The divine light was the only thing that actually started to actually chip away at this mountain of tenseness and density and trauma in the center of my body. It was changing me, and I could feel it changing me. So over time, I did a ton of that work. And then now these days, I'm back around in the last 5-10 years into therapy. But I spent 15 years of time just like nowhere near therapy. So my point is, I was working spiritually on my emotional trauma. But the layer of emotional trauma I was working on could only be dealt with by spiritual energetic healing work. Then there came a point where there was a layer that needed therapy specifically really badly. And when that moment started to emerge, when I was sitting in the records, I would regularly hear the guides say, or give me the energy of, or give me the awareness of, honey, it's really time to go into the emotional body now. We've really been chipping away at all the density and the heaviness that's sitting on top of your emotional trauma. And that took me a good 8 or 10 years because I should explain this really. When you have emotional trauma, imagine this is the trauma right here. Like mom yells at you and you feel shame. And that shame lives in your body because you don't process it because you're 2 years old when it happens and you can't process it. So there's the shame living as a stuck energy in your belly or your heart or your throat or wherever it is. Okay. When that doesn't ever process, it starts to harden and somatize. It gets harder and harder and harder and becomes actually a dense physical object or stuck energy. Attracted to that kind of wound and energy and injury is something called darkness, actual darkness. So there's divine light and there's divine dark, well, undivine dark. There are dark energies that like to snuff out the energies of light. That's just a thing that goes on in the universe. That's not a moral issue. It's just what occurs. Those dark energies attach to the outsides of unhealed wounds. So for some of us, I've had so much wounding and it was of such an icky variety, and frankly, from so many past lives as well, of a lot of trauma and causing trauma and just a lot of stuff to clear. Okay. I came to this lifetime ready to clear it all and become a teacher of said topic because frankly, karma is real. So the point being, I spent a bunch of years just peeling those dense layers of darkness off the top of the wounding, then getting to the scabs or the defenses that were sitting over the wounding, and then finally dropping down right into the mushy, sad, painful core of the wounding. Now, was it perfectly mathematical like that? No. There were days where the light would penetrate all the way to the center of a piece of trauma for me, and I'd be right in the center of it for days and recovering for a long time. And it was very, very intense and still can be from time to time, as many of you know. So it's not perfectly mathematical like that. But when I look back at it, the gist of the shape of it was like that. But the point I'm getting to is that when it became the central part of my journey, the emotional work, when I finally was like able to, I had like created this strong channel connection to God. We had cleared all this like dark entity stuff off the top of the center of me and off all the layers. I had to go like spirit, physical, then emotional. When it was time to like really get into the emotional work, I had this idea that because I had this strong connection to God already, and I was like channeling shit and helping people and doing healing work with folks professionally, and it was working for people and helping them, I didn't really understand what would happen when I really dug into the vulnerability of the emotional layer of my wounds. I thought like whatever, it's not going to like deepen my spiritual connection. It's just going to be me healing my emotional stuff, like emotions, whatever, clear like if it's dense and stuck in your body, let's clear it, let's process it, let's like do the parts work around it. And I just thought whatever. What I came to discover is I had no idea this was coming at all. It's very humbling, in fact. Um, was that when the light hits you there and you're dealing with the emotional layer of wounding and you start to really heal chakras 1, 2, and 3, which I talk about all the time, and you start to really grieve on the emotional level, every terrible thing that happened to you in the past, really just like getting in touch emotionally with it when that stuff like squeezes out of the pustule of you, when those emotions can finally purge and those parts of self that were exiled in your psyche by the original trauma start to grow up and integrate back into your full adult self, the degree of spiritual power one gains access to is mind-boggling. And more these days, they show it to me like you have to think of like most emotional stuff. I'm just going to show you is down in here. It's in the first, second, and third chakras, right? The stuck stuff. Of course, there's stuff stuck in the heart and the throat and the brain stem and the brain and all kinds of places. But the stuff that's the worst that we avoid the most as human beings, it's down in there. So when you can finally process that emotional stuff out, the light can now travel all the way down and through and permeate through all the cells of all parts of you. I worked with a healer once who was like, you don't have to like face and process everything, you know, you don't have to like feel everything and process and face. You could just like, and I remember thinking like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you fucking do. If what you want is complete healing, which is what I've always been after, and if what you want is, I don't know, a maximal experience of what it would be to live in this fucking crazy 3-dimensional reality as the light, do you want to live in this 3D dense intensity as light? I do. That sounds good to me. In order to do so, we have to go into all the places where it is dense and where there is pain and suffering and the lack of love. And we've got to love those parts of ourselves. I do that through divine light energy healing. It's just my way. It's just what works for me. I do, says Ray. Exactly. So what I'm getting at is if you want to be a waking wizard, if you want to walk around and be able to like do some magic shit, some of us are just oriented that way and we're always going to be wizardy people. Some of us, however, the key to becoming the full embodiment of the wizardry you actually carry already on the soul level is to get down into the muck of your past and transmute that shit with the divine light down and in there. Because I'm telling you, the way my guides worked me, they worked it sort of outside in, although it sure didn't feel that way at the time. But it's been like they're like easing me into the worst of it. But because they had to build my nervous system up and strengthen me, they had to build a river of light between me and them so that when I was going to hit the worst of it, I had access to something that could nourish me. Because I came from a childhood where I didn't have any imprinting of what self-love is, what nourishment is, what love of others is. None of that was imprinted for me. So I had to build that with the divine for years before I was ready to really hit the like painful emotional shit. And believe me, there was other painful shit coming off the whole time before that. So it's been a for real kind of ride. But what I'm pointing to today is that the deeper into my emotional body that this transmutation goes, the more fucking wizardy I get. Every time I do a healing session after I'm regularly going through upgrades, I call them, and some of them are really uncomfortable. This past week, as I talked about in my 3-card spread this week, I can't keep track of time now, but I had a spontaneous liver cleanse happen where my liver was like, "Sorry, you just cleared a bunch of shit in your Tuesday night Star Beings class that was so powerful." And by the way, on the topic of what we're about to do a healing on, so saddle up, buckaroos. Um, it was so powerful that it was like, "Oh, you wanna clear the polarity of anger and love where you resist anger and you resist love?" And I was like, "Yes." So we did that, and then the next day for 24 hours, my liver was in crisis because that's where in my body, somatized, was my resistance to love and my resistance to anger. Now, I would say I didn't have as much of that as I used to have in there, but it was rough. It was a rough day afterwards because the body keeps the score, as the really great book is titled. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score, and the body does keep the freaking score. So living in my liver was this resistance to anger and this resistance to love, and we cleared both sides of that polarity. And my liver was like, "Oh, cool, I can finally release that." But that had to come out through a lot of feces. A lot of feces. Wet feces, dry feces. I'll stop, but you get the idea. It wasn't comfortable, and Rami was getting a lot of texts about it. So, what I'm saying is that the more we do our uncomfortable emotional work and really look at and sit with where we are in resistance, to bring it back around to the topic of resistance, and the more we release that resistance from our nervous systems, our muscles, our organs like the liver, our thyroid, our belly, everywhere, the brain, the tissues of this 3D thing we have called a body, the more we do that, the more those dense tissues become freaking light. They become activated light. And if you're here listening to me say words, you are a light worker. You are a person of the light. You're probably a star being, but maybe not all of you. Some of you are, some of you aren't. But you're all light workers, or words I'm saying wouldn't be relevant to you. Okay. So as we become the light, the deepest, most potent, fastest way to become the light is to meet up with everything emotional that is dense and stuck and unprocessed from your childhood and or any past lives that you're carrying them from. Um, Now, to that point, I will say this. Past life energy is often stuck in a realm of or a part of the auric field that isn't quite as emotional as this life trauma. So this life trauma is gonna have more of a density and a is that the gesture I want for that? This life trauma is gonna have more of a density how's that? Is that better? And more of a density to it than past life trauma. Not that some past life trauma isn't dense and horrifying. I promise you, I've cleared some weird fucking shit from past lives for myself and other people. But it's a different kind of pain when you're processing the trauma of this life. It's a different frequency, you could say. So now that brings us to resistance. Okay. So when you look at what you're resisting in your life, okay, we all have resistance to stuff. If you could understand it from how if you could understand its actual makeup, resistance always is born of something that happened in your childhood, always 100% of the time. And they're like, they won't even, that's like such a yes, I have to do my head to the left thing. I get a head to the left and an expansive open feeling with yeses, and a head to the right and a contracted tight feeling with no's, and it's quite clear. So resistance is always born of you being in response or reaction to something that happened in your childhood. Now, what most people don't know that I find to be very important to look at about resistance is that whenever you have resistance to something, there is part of you that is also resisting the opposite of that thing. Sometimes not, but 9 times out of 10, some percentage of you is resisting the opposite polarity of that. So let's take an example we can all relate to. If you look at going to the gym, and in those of you, I think a couple of my students are here tonight. You've been with me as we've talked about this last week in class. So thank you for listening again. And I'll probably use the same examples because I'm old and my brain is melting before my eyes. Kidding, but only kind of. So let's say you want to start working out, but you have a lot of resistance to working out or like moving your body, lifting weights, going to the gym, something like that. You might say to yourself, wow, I've got a lot of resistance to going to the gym. I'm just going to push myself through. I'm just going to go there. I'm gonna just do it, right? Nike, I'm just going to do it. That's what we've been taught. We live in America. Just push yourself there. Wouldn't it be nice though to just not have the resistance so that you could just go to the gym when you're 5:55 p.m., which is the number of letting go and trusting the universe. So anything you're holding on to, you guys, right now, it's if they bring it to my attention, it's for a reason. Just anything going on in your life, let it go. It's gonna get handled. It's okay. You could just let it go for right now. And so will I. Thank you, numbers. Thank you, angels. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so wouldn't it be nice to just go like, yeah, I feel like going to the gym right now, and then go and not have to like do so much muscle work to talk yourself into going? Well, when you clear the polarity holding your resistance together, that's how it starts to be. Um, so you've realized you have resistance to going to the gym. Now I'm offering the idea that if you have resistance to going to the gym, you also have resistance to what you're doing now. So if what you're doing now is avoiding the gym or uh not going to the gym or being lazy or sitting on your couch, whatever you're doing that isn't going to the gym, you have to look at it for yourself. Mine would be like avoiding working out, right? I have to own that I have resistance to the gym right here, going to the gym. And I also am judging myself for not going to the gym. So I have resistance to that as well. I'm not perfectly at peace with the fact that I'm not going to the gym. If I'm thinking all the time, I wish I was going to the gym. I should go to the gym. I want to go to the gym. And I actually want to go to the gym, but I'm in resistance to it. That means I'm in resistance to the fact that I'm not going to the gym. And now look where my face is. My head and my face are stuck between these two resistancy walls. And I'm like this inside the middle, just stuck, frozen, can't go anywhere. So if you were to release the energy of resistance to the gym and the energy of resistance to not going to the gym, all of a sudden, where is my face? My face and my head are just floating around in consciousness, able to make choices that it wants to make. So now it's like if it occurs to my body, if my body goes like, I want to move around and go to the gym, I'm like, I'm looking for when in my calendar today can I find 20 minutes to lift weights? When in my calendar today can I make it work? I'm like itching to go to the gym now. Now I like want to go to the gym. And that's what's happened for me. I just ran this one the other day. Now I want to go to the gym all the time. And so I've been going and it's great. Now the gym is an easy example because it's something to do in the outer realities. But let's look at a different kind of example. And pretty soon here, I'm going to have you guys, you're going to want to get a pen and paper because we're going to write some stuff down at a certain point, and then we're going to run a healing on it. Let's look at something else that is a little more subtle and a little more internal. So when I was looking at my resistances again recently, I started with things on the external because that's easy. I was like, I am resisting going to the gym and I am resisting not going to the gym. I don't want either of those things, but I want both. I'm stuck, right? I started to realize as those pieces would clear that it would show me, my conscious awareness would show me the next layer below it of what I was resisting in a subtler way, below that or behind it. So, for example, after that was taking care of myself and not taking care of myself. And then under that was self-love and self-avoidance, I want to say. So when you start to peel apart or understand or really clear the energy of the polarity of something on the outer levels of reality, if you pay attention, it will show you what the subtler emotional inner levels of those polarities are as well. Other examples of ones I ran into, I had things like, oh yeah, intimacy, connecting with people, and isolation. So I was, like, resisting intimacy, but I was in a lot of isolation, and I was resisting my isolation. None of it is okay, so I'm stuck, and I can't go anywhere. I can, like, push myself in one direction or another, but I'm carrying these walls with me. So I would dissolve the resistance to intimacy, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I want to connect with people. Look at that. I'm ready to connect with people." And then I had to dissolve the resistance to, isolation, and then it's like, "It's okay. Maybe tonight I'll stay home. Maybe tonight I'll connect with people." None of it has the same charge that it had before. And this is what's so important. People think if they just work with one side of their resistance, they're going to be fine. But the problem is you haven't dealt with the other side of it. And so you feel like a little bit of something is still there. And it's because we don't think of it this way. We haven't been taught to understand both sides of how this works. So I would encourage you all, when we get into the writing of this, to look at some outer things you're resisting and also some inner things, some more emotional things that you're resisting. So before we go into like writing this down and getting into the healing, does anybody have a question about what I'm saying that would help you understand what I'm talking about and how this works? Let's go ahead and post that in the comments now. Any questions at all about the words I'm saying? What did I mean by this? And remember, please, when you post your questions, you're helping the whole group. Always, 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 because there's always at least one other person who needs to hear the responses to the questions you ask. So does anyone have any questions? Don't be shy. Let it out. Tell the truth. Don't hide. Gives me a moment to hydrate. Okay. Do you have an intellectual, Jane says, do you have an intellectual understanding or specific memories of what you're clearing, or is it more just junky? I'm not sure I understand that question, but this is how I would frame my response to that. And I see your questions, Care Bear and 90 as well. Jane is asking, do you have an intellectual understanding or specific memories of what you're clearing? I can respond to that part. So if I'm looking at my resistance to intimacy, let's say, and then my resistance to isolation, or like whatever the opposite of connection is. Yeah, for me, it's isolation. I do not need to remember what caused it. I don't have to go through the whole thing of like, my dad was like this and my mom, and then there was the time we had the picnic and they ignored me. I don't need to do any of that. All I need to do is call up the energy in my body of where I am in resistance to intimacy, and then call up the energy in my body of where I am in resistance to isolation or being alone. Now, when we go into the healing in a minute here, I'm going to call that all up for you guys because I'll be in your Akashic records. So I'm going to ask the divine to call it up in you. When you're working with it on your own, you can just sit quietly with your eyes closed and say to consciousness, I call up all my resistance to bananas. Okay. I call up all my resistance to going to bed at 10 p.m. Let's say you're trying to do that, but you just like can't get yourself to freaking do it. Just call it up. And then you need a way to clear it. So sometimes the way to clear it for some people is going to be just cry through whatever comes up. For me, I need energy work to do that. I need a conscious connection to the divine light. So when you start to discover your resistances, it can be a good time to work with your healer on it. And we're going to do a bunch of it today. I hope that helps you, Jane. Let me know if I missed anything there. Care Bear, adorable. And what a fun spelling as well. K-E-R, bear. Clever bear. How do you know what you're resisting? Well, anything you're struggling to get yourself to do that you want to be doing, or that you think you want to be doing. and this brings up a really good point, you guys, because sometimes you will clear your resistance to something and then realize, I don't even want to fucking do that thing. I was resisting it because I thought I should be doing it. And now that the resistance to doing it is gone, I realize I don't even give a fuck about that thing. That happens more than you know, more than you might imagine. So, Care Bear, I would have to throw it back to you and say, like, where in your life are you trying to do stuff, but like stopping yourself? Where in your life are you wanting one thing, but not experiencing it? Where in your life are you desiring more of X and not receiving more of X? Chances are good right in there is a spot you're resisting something. And in fact, I can't even say chances are good and feel authentic about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Squeezle the dog has arrived, which she knows we're going in the records because she always shows up when it's time to do the healing because she's my familiar. She's my familiar. She's my healing sidekick. She does the majority of the work. And it's mostly in the form of adorability because come on the blanket like that, give me a break. Okay, so I hope that helps you. I would look at where do you want something, Care Bear, in your life, but you're either not getting it or you're not taking action toward attempting to get it. Okay, and then okay, cool, Jane. I'm glad that helped. Then let's see. How do I release my soul of the fear of connecting with divine source, which allowed past memories of demonic attacks, tethering, etc.? You got to clear your resistance to it. But then I would say, let me see who's saying this. I lost the name. I think that's 90. Yeah. We're going to do a clearing, and you could do a clearing on that topic if you like. So first you have to face it. Okay, I'm in resistance to connecting with the divine. And then that means that you're also in resistance to not connecting to the divine or whatever it is you're doing right now. So if what you're doing in your life, like if the form your resistance to not connecting to the divine takes is being an active rebellion of the divine, you're going to want to clear that too. Maybe the opposite, though, for you looks like just avoiding it or ignoring it or keeping your life really pedestrian. Whatever the opposite of it looks like, you're going to want to clear both of those. Now, what I want to tell you, Naini, is that when you do that, if you have past memories of demonic attacks and tethering, you're going to need to then clear your past demonic attacks and tethering. You're probably going to need some help doing that. I mean, if you clear your resistance to seeing what is, like, because that's what you're talking about, when you connect with divine source, you see what is. So you're resisting connecting with divine source because you don't want to see what is, because what is sucks for you because you have these past memories of demonic attacks. So then I would say you need to work with a healer who could clear demons and clear your memories of demonic attacks. Like none of that scares me because I work with that shit all day, every day. I've cleared scarier demons than you'll ever interact with. Sounds like a challenge, doesn't it? I don't mean it that way. But I mean, I have cleared some scary shit, friend, from myself and from others. And so it's all doable. And you don't have to remain in resistance in order to avoid the scariness of demonic attacking. You can actually clear the demonic attacking. So clear your resistance to divine source, clear your resistance to resisting divine source, whatever that looks like for you. And then see what comes up and get some help clearing that. Cool. Awesome. Great questions, you guys. Any other questions before we dive into doing a little bit of work on this? Is there anything conceptual anybody's not understanding before I have you go to work on this? Feel free to throw that in the chat if you have a question. So let's grab our pens and paper. And we're going to quite quickly, let's see. Doc Bill says, it generates a mountain of endless endeavor. I'm not sure what you mean. What generates a mountain of endless endeavor? Let me know what you mean by that if you feel like it. So here's what we're going to do. So I'm doing this on my phone, just in the notes app, but feel free to write it with a pen or however you want to do it. We're going to write down a couple things we are in resistance to. And right next to it, you're going to write down the opposite of it. So I'd like you to do a couple of these we're going to do 3 in total. Maybe do one. Okay, I'm trying to understand what I'll be back to this. We'll come back to you, Doc Bill. You're going to write down one sort of external thing if you need to, but the other two, let it be something emotional or internal. Okay. So write down, for example, if you're resisting working out, you would also write down avoiding working out, or staying distracted, or watching TV to zone out. Whatever is the opposite thing that you do that is not working out. Okay. Then write two more of those pairs down. We're going to think of these as pairs of polarities. So if you have feeling my feelings, this is a good one for that I ran through. I was resisting feeling my feelings. So then I wrote the pair of that was avoiding my feelings, because I was also resisting avoiding my feelings. So let's just take 3 minutes and jot 3 pairs of those down while we're here together. So happy this is live on YouTube now. Me too. Thank you, Rahima. We figured out how to do that. And thanks to the lovely and talented Leslie Colas over there, my assistant in the Philippines, who's just the behind the scenes maven of all things good. So you guys can watch this live on YouTube each Wednesday, as well as here on Facebook. All right. So hopefully right now you're writing down 3 pairs of what you resist and the opposite of that thing. Remember too, you guys, to write down only things that are true for you. You don't have to go digging for resistances that you're not actually dealing with in your actual personal life. Okay. So I'm just going to set this timer and give us 2 more minutes to do this. Okay, Doc Bill, I see what you're saying. You mentioned a giant overriding belief. I understand. So I think what you're saying is you have a resistance to that belief, and then you have a resistance to not having that belief. Like, in other words, so I'd need to know more about what the belief is to help you specifically with that. So if you feel like throwing that in the chat, I can probably coach you around that. What specifically is the giant overriding belief? Hmm. Okay, so you probably have your 3 pairs now. Hopefully you do. And if not, just work with one. It's fine. 1 or 2 is fine. If you're anything like me and you start looking at this, you're going to realize you've got 50 or 25 and you're just writing them all down. And that's great. I would say get aware of them. And over time, you can work on all sides of all of it. Okay. We've got to dive into the records now. So we can get into some of this and wrap by 6:30. So it's going to be fast and dirty here. Doc has a belief: if I don't share my knowledge on gifts, my life will be a waste. Yeah. So you have a resistance to sharing your knowledge, and you have a resistance to not sharing your knowledge. Good. That's a perfect example. So use that one as the starter for what we're going to do right now, Doc. That would be what I would recommend. Okay. All right, let's dive in, you guys. So we're going to close our eyes here, and we're actually going to go into the Akashic records of this group of people right now. Yep, that's what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to close our eyes. We're going to take a few conscious breaths into the low belly. Relax your back into the chair that you're in. Bring your feet flat on the ground if you can. Breathe, breathe, breathe into the low belly. Allow your low belly to extend and fill with air, or allow the belly button to come away from the spine as you inhale. And then allow the belly button to come back toward your spine as you exhale. Inhale, fill the low belly. Exhale, allow the belly to collapse. Yeah, just consciously deepening your breath and taking it from the shallow chest breathing, a lot of us do, all the way down into the pelvic floor. Good. Next, we're going to feel into the bottoms of our feet. Feel your feet in contact with the earth below you. Visualize, imagine, and allow a little spinning foot chakra to exist right there at the bottom center of each of your feet, spinning open and spinning wide. And as those little foot chakras spin open like little tornadoes or little hurricanes of light, I'd like you to imagine them expanding wider and wider, left and right, until eventually the entire surface area of the bottom of each of your feet is an open field of energy, because that tornado or that hurricane of spinning vortex of light has just expanded and expanded until there's nothing there. And this opening at the bottom of each of your feet allows the electromagnetic field of your body to communicate quite intimately with the electromagnetic field of the earth below you. And we just acknowledge that as a collective here. Next, I'd like you to imagine, watch, visualize, allow 500 energetic tree roots of light. Watch them extend through the open window of your left foot, hundreds of miles down into the earth. And then watch as another 500 energetic tree roots of light extend through the open window of your right foot, hundreds of miles down into the earth, left and right and forward and back, down and in and down and in. See those roots extending down and in and down and in. Many, many hundreds of miles, anchoring the tree of light that is you to the present moment of where you are now on this planet. And as you see those roots anchoring down, we're going to see one more thing occur, which is a nice wide grounding cord is going to extend from the base of your spine, about the width of your hips, big and wide. We're going to see that shoot down to the center of the earth. And as that tunnel or that tube hits the center of the earth, it's just going to anchor down into the center of the planet. And as it anchors in, we're going to watch as a river of light, divine white light, golden light, however you like to see it, is given by Sophia Gaia, the soul of this earth. And this river of light flows up through the grounding cord into the base of your spine. An abundant, rushing, powerful river of love and light, flooding into the base of your spine, nurturing your first chakra, flooding forward into each of your hip sockets. This river flows. It flows down through your legs now into the quads and glutes and hamstrings and knees, calves, shins, ankles, and feet. And this river of light begins to flood down into those roots we established moments ago. So the river of light given by Sophia Gaia, the soul of this planet, nourishes your grounding cord, your hips, your legs, your feet, and your roots, your 1,000 tree roots of light. Amen. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. Holy Spirit of God, protect me, please, from all forms of self-centeredness. Direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know, please, everybody here today at Katie Church online in the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see everybody here today at Katie Church online through the eyes of the Lords of the Records. And enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of everybody here at Katie Church online today have for everybody here at Katie Church online today. Okay, and as we deepen into the Akashic records of everybody who is here right now on this call, in this conversation, all the people attending Wacky Wacky Katie Church, as we deepen into the Akashic records of this group, I'm asking the record keepers of this group of individuals, first, we're asking that you clear, uncreate, destroy, eliminate, eradicate, dissipate across all time, dimension, space, reality, anything and everything in each of our fields today that would stand in the way of our being able to release these polarities with ease and with your help. Anything and everything in the way, in the fields of the people here at Katie Church or myself, of everybody here releasing the polarizing energies of their resistance. We ask that you take all that now. I ask that you deepen me into the Akashic records of this group of people that are all here tonight. Breathe, if you can, everybody, into your low belly. Feel those roots underneath your feet, anchoring you to the here and now. Feel your grounding cord anchoring you to the center of the earth. Okay, good. Stay down and in your body to the best of your ability. Now, if things get uncomfortable and tense, that's okay, and it's good. Please stay with whatever gets dense and tense and uncomfortable as we go through this work, because it's going to get bigger and you're going to become more aware of it, and then it's going to clear. Okay, so take a look at your first polarity. And repeat after me where you are. You can either do this internally or out loud. I call up to my conscious awareness all of my resistance to blank. And just do the first side of the first polarity right now. Yeah, good. I call up into my conscious awareness. Good. All of my resistance to blank. And just be with that for a moment. Oh. Really feel into it as I bring the divine light in and to meet you right there where that's living. Good. Repeat once more the same one, the same first side of your first resistance polarity. I call up into my conscious awareness all of my resistance to blank. And we're asking for all of the divine light, all of the star beings, all of the angels, all of the teams that serve the light. All the beings of light in the realm of the Akasha to clear this side of this polarity. Good. Now repeat, please. I call up into my conscious awareness all of my resistance to blank, and let that be the second side of the first polarity. I call up all into my conscious awareness all of my resistance to blank. Feel that in your body. And if you can't, act as if you're feeling it in your body. Stay in your body. Repeat once more the same one. I call up into my conscious awareness all of my resistance to blank, the second side of your first polarity. Good work. Each time you call it up, just know that I'm bringing the light to meet you at the place where your system is holding on to that piece of that polarity. Let's move to your second one. I call up into my conscious awareness. Repeat. All of my resistance to blank, the first side of your second polarity. Yeah. We open ourselves to receive divine light transmission, star being activation, love and light and healing from the beings of light and the realms of the Akasha. And just the light of conscious awareness itself. Good. The second side of your second resistance, I call up into my conscious awareness all of my resistance to blank, the second side of your second polarity. Good. Now they're moving quickly here. The third one, I call up, repeat, into my conscious awareness, all of my resistance to blank, first side of your third polarity. And lastly, I call up now into my conscious awareness all of my resistance to blank, second side of your third polarity. I call up now all sides, both sides of each of these polarities into my conscious awareness. Good work, everybody. And I'm asking now on behalf of this group, that all the shadow energies, attending energies, attached energies, leftover energies, magnetic resonances, or other kinds of stuck energies connected to any of these polarized edges of our resistance, that they be taken, cleared, released as well. Good. Okay, and then lastly here, I open myself. This is to repeat. I open myself now to receive into the places that have been cleared divine light transmission. I open myself now to receive into the places that have been cleared divine light transmission. Okay. All right. This is a really good beginning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close the records for now to keep us on time. I want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion, the lords of the records for their point of view, and the Holy Spirit of light for all knowledge and healing. I ask that you return everybody here in Katie Church's energy to themselves now, please. I ask that you return everybody here to their complete human wholeness now. The divine portal and the Akashic records of everybody here on this call in Katie Church are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records of everybody here in Katie Church are now closed. Amen. Divine portal and the Akashic records of everybody here in Katie Church are now closed. Amen, amen, amen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasulullah. All right. Okay. So go gently, my friends. Go gently and go light with yourself this evening. Take it easy. This is a really great beginning. I would give each of you the homework assignment of if you really want to take this up and see where this can take you, get present throughout the coming week to every single place inside of you where you have resistance to anything, and start to ask yourself, what is the other side of that polarity? What do I resist on the other side of it that's a more subtle form of resistance, but that is hidden there? And put them all on paper. Get really clear about what they all are. And what you can do if you have a spiritual connection that works for you already is you can just call them up one at a time the way we did and let the divine meet you right in the place where your being is holding on to those resistances, and let the divine dissolve it. If you don't have a practice that works for you in that way yet, you can just literally call it up and sit with it until it melts into your being and dissolves that way. And of course, when and if that doesn't work, you call your friendly neighborhood Katie Rubin, you book your session, and we clear some stuff for you. Couple quick announcements just to wrap up the evening. Doing a really cool event. It's a 5-week series that I'll be doing with a wonderful program with a group of people called OMA in Pittsburgh, who, if you saw my last show online, I did that show with them. I'm going to put I'm going to put a link in the chat here if you're interested. It's a 5-week class called Waking the Sleepers. And this is for people who are on a path and looking to activate their light body really potently and heal the spiritual DNA strand that makes you who you are. The very code of your soul exists as a double helix DNA strand. For light workers, we have to heal that, activate it, connect it up to source. And this is really for light workers who need to activate their light body, and or sleeping light workers who need to become the light worker they are. So it's a 5-week class. The link is there in the chat if you're curious. It's a very affordable 5 weeks. As you guys know, my classes are around $475 for 7 weeks, which I think is very reasonable as well. This is just $175 for 5 weeks of classes. So I can't recommend it highly enough. Because I'm working with them, it's more affordable. It's a great way to activate, heal, clear your trauma, etc. Feel free to copy that from the chat. Also, my Sunday healing class begins again April 3rd. So you've got about a week and a half, 2 weeks to sign up for that. And if you want to do that, you're just going to go to katierubin.com, which I have also put in the chat, and look for the highest level healing class. That's on Sundays. Our focus for the highest level healing class is going to be resistance and clearing it on both sides all the time, every day. We get really deep and we become really good friends in these classes. So I'd love to have you guys with us. Feel free to hop on in. And of course, when you're ready to book your private session to do some energy work or to get some answers to whatever life questions you have. Should I buy this house? Should I date this person? Am I moving? Am I not moving? katierubin.com to book your session and or your package. You guys, it's been a delight. I'll see you right here next week, same time, same place. Gather your resistances and work with them this week so we can talk about it next time. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for being here. Have a great night. Deep gratitude to you as well.